Hey guys, what's up? I had a conversation with someone that I hold very near and dear just a few days ago, and we were talking about something that I've made several videos on several times throughout the years, and I just thought it would probably be something that I can share again. And this is again, it's just so every time I make a video, it's not just only so that I can just vomit stuff on you guys, but it's so that hopefully to teach you something. Um, I've learned a lot for sure in my life, and everything that I've learned and applied and moved away from and moved towards other things has just helped me in my life, and then I'm hoping that it can do the same for you. So the subject was about race, right? So I've mentioned it before. You could check out my video somewhere on YouTube or somewhere here on Instagram or Facebook or what have you about racism and classism. Now, with regards to race, for example, sometimes we are the ones who separate ourselves. So, for example, you listen to the news and they say, this just in, a black man shot an Asian guy who was holding a camera made by a Puerto Rican. And it's like, wow, they just mentioned three different race there. And everybody goes up, their antennas go up, and everybody's in an outrage because it was a black man, an Asian, and a Puerto Rican. And every one of those races immediately just went on fire. But what they neglected to get out of that was that someone was killed. And sometimes in between, not sometimes, many times, you know there's so much thrown at us that we actually kind of forget or are blinded by the mire to see what the actual importance of that message was. So if I say, yeah, several years ago, I opened up my first Hispanic owned shop in New Jersey. Or, I was the first Puerto Rican to do A, B, and C. And then someone says, oh, yeah, well, I have a black owned business, or I have a Asian owned, women owned business. You're the one putting the separation on yourself. You understand? You're separating yourself from not just a person, not just an entrepreneur, not just someone who is trying to advance, not someone who is moving into a different economic bracket. You're saying, I am this race, and this is first and foremost what I bring to the table. And the fact that the accolade itself wasn't important enough, I had to add the race part. And I think that we're doing ourselves a disservice. So if I go and I have a debate with somebody, and you know I say, well, as a Hispanic male, I think it's very important that we raise our kids with dignity and blah blah blah. And it's like, oh, only Hispanic males, or just maybe males in general, maybe fathers in general. Maybe that's why we have such crappy fathers in this world. I mean, what is the relevance of you adding the Hispanic part, the black part, the Asian part, the whatever part? What is the relevance behind it? And I think it's because, in human nature, we try to append ourselves onto things. And these are things that, labels, for example, and these labels are what ultimately stir the pot, so to speak. And then we miss the message, the big picture inside what's being told or what's being actually, actualized. And I think that we're doing ourselves a disservice when it comes to that. So again, you guys can DM here and say everything that you think I'm saying is incorrect, but just look at your own life. Like, you should not be worried or concerned about what your race is if you have the skill set, if you have the aptitude, if you have the understanding, if you have the wisdom, if you have the knowledge, if you have the creativity, if you have the wherewithal to do whatever function in life it is that you need to do, then putting that piece of element is irrelevant. Now, I'm going to close up this story by saying, and I'm going to make the point, okay, is So I was born and raised in New York City. I am a Puerto Rican by blood. Um, Now I go to Puerto Rico. If I go to Puerto Rico, even right now, forget about when I used to go and tell people that I was Puerto Rican. But right now, if I went to Puerto Rico and I speak to them in my broken Spanish and I say I'm Puerto Rican, the first thing they're gonna say is where, or ask is, where were you born? And of course, I'll say New York, and they'll go, get out of here. You're just a gringo. You're not a Puerto Rican. So my own people, okay, by blood, I should say, um, won't even acknowledge me as a Puerto Rican. And meanwhile, I'm over here on this side of the island talking about I'm Puerto Rican. And meanwhile, my own Puerto Ricans from my own Puerto Rican native land don't look at me as Puerto Rican. So, well, there goes that identity I can't use. And then living on this side of the world, I always thought I was just American because, I grew up speaking English. I grew up in America. I grew up in the Mecca city, New York City. I went to school with a bunch of different types of races. And I mentioned it before in another video that I wasn't even a racist until I knew what races were and seeing it in different parts of my family and the way they spoke about different races. I became a racist. But I mean, that's just ignorance, but that's another story. But here I go, I work and I get begin my career, and I would get people that would say, "You're some race, right? You're like Hispanic." And I would go, I'm American, but where's your parents from? Where are your Well, my parents were also, they were born right here, in New York. Um, and what about your family? Like, where? Oh, yeah, like they're from Puerto Rico, like my grandfather. Oh, I knew you were Puerto Rican. Okay, so everybody sees me as Puerto Rican here, but Puerto Rico doesn't see me as Puerto Rican. My mind is confused. So at the end of the day, if you attach yourself to this, or this pride that you have for a country or for whatever it is that you have, and you attach yourself to this name, this thing, this occupation, this whatever, then that's what you become. And my thing is, I look at myself quite simply as a child of God. I am a child of the Most High. And now there is nobody above him. So me saying that kind of nullifies everything else. So it doesn't matter what race I am, doesn't matter where in the world I was born. It has no bearing on my success, on what I do, what I know, what I learn, how I learn it, because I'm the son of the Most High. And so, like, when you look at it like that, it cuts through the clutter and you save yourself a lot of angst and pains. And look at the world that we live in, this debauched world where everybody is labeled something and everybody wants to be labeled something, and then there are people who don't want to be labeled something, and then the labels become labels, and then the news calls you this, and the world calls you this. And I think it's just easier and simpler for your life if you just streamline everything by just saying you're a child of God, and whatever it is that you know or that you do, or the skill sets that you have, or the talents, those are things that you've been endowed and blessed with, and that these are the things that you'll continue to use as your prowess towards whatever it is, again, that you do. And then this way, life will be a little bit more simpler for you because it won't be so complicated to get into any arguments or any nonsense shenanigans about what status you are. At the end of the day, like I said, there is racism and then there's classism. And I would lean more towards that classism is definitely a thing, and that racism is only there based on ignorance. So if I had $1 million and an Asian guy had $1 million and an African guy had $1 million and an Irish guy had $1 million and an Italian, we won't even be looking at each other's skin color. We'll all know that we have millions of dollars, and that's kind of, we're on a different class bracket, and that's exactly what we'll see. So I would not waste my time with nonsense. And for yourself, don't separate yourself. You sometimes we do it inadvertently. Don't separate yourself. Don't let your pride get the best of you. You're a human being who was created in God's image, and you are endowed with certain um, abilities, talents, skills that you're here to use and hopefully propagate throughout the world, and just simply try to be the best shining light that you can. Now, there's a scripture that says that the darkness hates the light. And wow, if that's not a true statement, then I don't know what is. But nonetheless, even though they hate the light, that's on them. The light is still the light. So, guys, be a light in the world, be the change. I know it sounds so cliche, you hear it all the time, and you even hear people who don't even do that say it. And it's like, be the change. Live by the motto that do unto others as you would want have done to you. Oh no, well, nobody treats me kind, and people talk to me this way, and people always look at me this way, and I'm not going to apologize if they're not going to apologize, and I'm not going to. Well, then, if you want to live in that vicious cycle and not be the light, the one who's the better person, then that's the vicious cycle that you live. But if you be that person first, then I guarantee you, you will reap what you sow at some point in your life. All right. Well, so that's my 2 cents, guys. I'm hoping that no one takes offense to this. I think it's good news to understand that there is a simpler way to think, and it's just a much more efficient way to live. And I'm not saying, forego and get rid of your race and all that stuff. If you're proud of who you are as a race, awesome. But you're a human being first, because you could have been born anywhere in the world. So you're a human being first, and I would stick to the morals of a human being, the way you would want to be treated, and not worry so much about all this race nonsense and putting that as your accolade of who you are, and the pride that you put yourself on top of. All right, guys. So that is my time. Peace in the Middle East.